Okay, so I have I'm working on my front elevation here. I have in my classes, I have created my line weight classes, and I'll be using those. So when I'm doing my roof, I've created this section of my roof. I'm gonna also, I'm gonna delete that for now and redraw it. So I'm going to create a line, and I'm gonna create it from my top of wall. Right now, I'm just gonna create an arbitrary length and an arbitrary angle. We are going to, as designers, we are going to dictate what we want that slope to be. So I can go in and specify, say for instance, I want it to be a 5 and 12 slope. So I've created this line. I can go up into my object info palette. I make sure that I'm on my polar grid. I can see the angle. It has 30 degrees. Vectorworks is great because it does recognize slope. So I can actually type in 5:12 or 5 and 12, and that shows me my slope, or it actually converts to 22.62 degrees. So I can use that then, and I can mirror this line. This was a little off center, so I'll just mirror it and move it over. So I can have that both sides of my roof. Before I even, I know that this is correct, and I've made sure that these are at the pitch that I want them to be. Instead of redrawing more lines and possibly having them incorrect or different than what I've created here, I'm just going to click Option Drag and click Option Drag, and then I've duplicated that slope. Another thing we discovered yesterday is I could take this slope, and if I want to flip it, I could actually flip it. I can rotate, I can flip it vertically or horizontally, and that's going to flip it. Or we are also changing the angle. It's going to be flipping it vertically. I can put, or horizontally, I can put a minus in front of the angle plus 180, and it does the same thing. I'll just undo that. So this is the slope of the roof, and this is actually going to go up, and I can take it, however, I can take it too far for now. I can take this one too far. I can also go and make my roof plan visible and snap off those lines. Oh, do I not have a roof plan? Oh, there we go. I'm on my elevations. I want my roof plan visible, show snap others. So I should be able to snap down from my roof as well. So there's that midpoint, and it aligns with that ridge. I can also snap down my overhangs. This should align with this ridge right there. I'm also going to, this one I won't be able to calculate, so I can drop these guidelines down, and I should be able to horizontally connect them across. My trim tool, I can go in, well really I can delete all that. So this is the outline of the slope of my roof. Now, this is the top of our wall. The roof is going to sit on top of that wall. So this height, believe I calculated at 9 feet. 9'1". And now I have to consider the structure of this roof. So whatever I build this roof out of, it's going to have a thickness, and I need to draw and accommodate for that. Most likely in this case, it would be trusses. So I'm just going to use my double line polygon, and I'm going to double click on the icon so I can type in 3.5 inches. And then I'm going to go around and I'm going to draw my polygon. I can do both. I need to go here as well as here. As well as here.
That's a truss you're drawing?
I'm basically just, the top of the truss is gonna sit, like I'm not gonna draw the webbing in between. I'm just trying to make sure that I account for the thickness. And obviously it's still gonna be engineered. I'm not gonna exactly know. I just want to roughly accommodate for that height, right? So I've drawn in the, so there's that thickness there. And then if we're using roof joists and they're 2x12s, then obviously I'm going to be doing that with a 1 foot separation, right? Or 11.25. So I'm going to now complete this. I've got my thickness. I can, depending if I want these to be gables or if I want them to be hips, I'm going to bring them, I want to accommodate, draw in my overhang. So I'm going to double click this polygon. I'm going to grab it from, make sure I'm not adding a vertex. I'm going to grab this. I want to make sure I hold shift and get perpendicular, and I'm going to take it too far so that I can just use my clip tool with it selected. I'm going to do that the opposite also here. So I'm just going to and then again, I'm going to double click in here, take this too far, use my clip tool. Take this one too far. Now, this is where you can get it. Sometimes with that one, if you move pan your screen, it takes you off the perpendicular. Okay. So then when I'm doing my side elevations, I can go in and plot off these overhangs and get those heights as well. These are actually going to be hip roofs, so I'm going to double click on this and subtract a vertex. And I'm going to give it fill just so I can cover things over. This one, I'm going to do the same, double click and subtract it. I want to take this one over. I have two pieces here. So I have this peak and it's extended on this side, and this one is actually that. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to mirror it, and then I'm going to take both and I'm going to add surface. And now that's one piece, and now I can double click and I can subtract that vertex now and give it a solid fill. And now this is where I still have this shape what I can also do is go and rectangle, and I want to delete these now. I can clean up as I go, that's that. I can use my polygon tool and I can use my bucket and fill that space. It didn't grab all of it, but that's okay because I can then double click, and I actually want to bring this edge down here, bring this edge perpendicular.
Can you put an asphalt shingle hatch pattern in there?
Yep, that's exactly what I'm gonna do next. So I'm actually gonna give it a solid fill first. So, and this one I'm gonna bring forward, or Command F, and see, now I have my roof. Now, this is just a solid fill. There's different ways of kind of what your, and I will give this solid fill as well. And bring this over. I will do another trim piece here. So now the thing with our hatches, is that they are, I will select this right now. If I go into my attributes palette, I can select hatch. And in doing so, it brings up this fill hatch menu, and I can go in and there's a whole bunch of default hatches. There is even a roof hatch right here. Roof shakes, roof shingle. I can double click on this, and this is my hatch for my roof. You can see that it doesn't have a fill though. So what I'm gonna actually do is Command D, or duplicate that shape. I'm gonna set it to be a solid white. I'm gonna send this back, Command B. I'm gonna multiple select or shift select, because I sent that white shape back. Now in the foreground is my hatch. So I'm going to shift select, and I can see I have 2 polygons. And together with them both selected, I'm gonna go Command F, and it brings that both pieces together to the foreground. Does that make sense? So there was, the white one was on top of the hatch. I sent the white back, all the way to the back. But in doing so, then the other lines showed up. So then I want to have the white one selected, white fill, hatch fill, both selected together, and I bring both of them together to the foreground. I can also group them, Command G, and now they're stuck together. Because now I actually want I'm gonna send them back because I want this. So I'm kind of rearranging the order and keeping them ordered together and moving them ordered either forward or back. Because now I actually want this trim piece in front. So I'm gonna press Shift and select that. So it was 2 groups, or it was a group, and now it says 2 objects, so there's a group, and this rectangle I've selected. Now I'm gonna go Command F again, and I'm bringing all of them to the foreground. And so I'm actually going to ungroup this. Now, I have this white fill here. I could go in and duplicate this again, and I'm going to have to duplicate it. But instead of going in and selecting the object and wanting to change the attributes by using the attributes palette, I can use the eyedropper tool. So in selecting the eyedropper tool, I can pick up the attributes from one object, press Option, and in pressing Option, it changes my cursor to a fill bucket. And this fill bucket, I can apply that hatch to that object. So that's the eyedropper tool. The first one, the eyedropper sucks up the attributes, and then option places those attributes on a new object. Now you can go in reverse, and the option key does the eyedropper, and the bucket is the original. I don't know why you'd want to fill first, but yeah. So I still have to deal, I mean, I could, with this hatch, I could go behind and delete these lines. That will also get rid of, negate the fill won't then be necessary. This polygon is I don't really want to change the height of this polygon, so that's why because that's my wall height, I kind of would like to still have it there for a reference. So I do prefer, I'm gonna duplicate this shape, set it to solid, that's white, I want to move it back, I want to grab it with this hatch and bring both all the way to the foreground. And you can see when I did that, there was this line here and this line here, and now that white fill and the hatch are in front of those lines. They're still there, they're just hidden by fill.
How do you temporarily hide that? If you want to go behind to get those lines you were talking about? Can you temporarily hide it and unhide it?
I would send these back, Command B, and then I can get these, then these lines are in the foreground. Right. I don't think Vectorworks has hide like SketchUp has hide. Okay, any questions about drawing a roof and elevation? Now, I
just jumped ahead, I used the offset tool. Got my trusses and
did it that way.
offset and just, then I varied the elevations.
That works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah. And that's the thing, there's no one way of doing things.
No.
What's the purpose of the white fill?
So because the hatch, like if I grab this right now, if I grab this right now, this hatch, it has the lines, but those lines, in between those lines, there is no fill, right? It's this hatch is a line pattern, basically.
Yeah.
And so it works well in adding detail, but it doesn't cover things if we need them to cover.
So in case there was anything structurally we're going to show in the roof?
Well, I use lines to figure out the heights of things, right? So I can either delete those lines, and in this case, for instance, this line I'm not going to need anymore, so I can delete that. But as I was saying, this line right here, this is the polygon for my wall heights. So I kind of want to still leave that there. Yeah. So, and even when we draw these, and depending either if we create a PDF or a JPEG or what kind of image file we can, or whatever image file we do end up creating, it operates differently in different programs. So I've done it before where I've created this as a PDF, and the objects that didn't have a fill didn't actually show up. Yeah, so there was the background was visible of the other program, like I did it in Keynote or PowerPoint or something, and it didn't. So I did actually you can change the image type, which is fine, but it also does print a bit differently, the fill as opposed to, white fill as opposed to no fill.
Island Blueprint and
Right.
all of a sudden your fills are black.
Right.
Black or something like that.
Right.
Doesn't show up.
Well, and especially, I don't know if it's the case now, but PC didn't used to recognize opacity. So like you can do opacity and say have a black fill, and it's great for setting it to 30% and using it for shading. But then if you go to print it on something that doesn't represent or recognize opacity, then it's solid black.